front of the camera there. Wasn't positioned the way I wanted it to, but this is going to be the Animation Friday video, as you can see by the title and thumbnail. I unfortunately had the circumstance of trying to play catch up, and unfortunately for some reason the audio didn't record properly. So now I have to go and redo Fridays, Saturdays, Sundays, and Mondays and Tuesdays. So this is going to probably take a while. I'll try to see if I can play catch up by this week. It's been a huge pain, and I apologize for the inconvenience and whatnot, but sometimes these really technical mess-ups happen, and you just kind of have to deal with it. And if you notice that my lips are a little bit strange, well, or at least the way my mouth is positioned, it's because I had to go to the dentist today, and my cheek is very puffy, and it's pretty numb. Not in pain or anything, just all really numb. So without further ado, let me discuss what I initially discussed in the other video about this particular topic dealing with animation that unfortunately wouldn't record my voice. So basically, for this Animation Friday, I wanted to talk about the differences between good and bad quality animation, like what makes good quality animation, what makes bad quality animation, because I think there is sort of a distinction that you can make between the two. Obviously, there are huge exceptions to the rule. For example, a lot of adult-oriented television shows like Family Guy and Futurama and South Park, those are largely not based in trying to create some sense of artistry or really focusing on the animation, but kind of using the animation to sort of tell jokes and try to be funny and create very ridiculous scenarios. So that's kind of the exception. But largely what I'm going to be talking about here is the good versus the bad. And we're leaving out the ugly because, you know, I think animation's kind of a toss-up as to whether or not you think the way certain characters are presented our environments are presented as pretty or not pretty. But basically, good animation, at least from my understanding, is largely trying to create emotion and trying to bring about something to the audience to where they feel like something is not only going on, but it ultimately kind of impacts everything. Because literally, animation, you're literally drawing everything from scratch. So you are not only creating the characters, but you're creating the environment, you're creating the setup, you're creating the plot, you're creating pretty much everything except the audio, really. The audio is not really the thing that you have control over necessarily. But for everything else, that's all on the plate of the animators. And largely, good animation tries to really put in effort to the details and making everything feel like you're being taken to something that is familiar but maybe also uniquely different. For example, Disney in particular, I think, has been known of doing this fairly well, where they will take real environments like Africa or Asia or Europe, and they'll use the sort of artistry and a little bit of the culture to create sort of a fictional representation of it. Not necessarily an accurate representation, but a fictional representation. And in doing so, you know, you kind of create your own little world, so to speak. And that's primarily what good animation does, is it takes something that's what we would consider real and kind of broadens the whole notion of that particular thing and makes it all into something even more, I guess, in depth in an emotional sense, and also bring out something that really doesn't necessarily exist and is not necessarily accurate, but at the same time it's very imaginative and it's very engaging, and you feel like every scene, every movement sort of carries itself. It flows well, and the colors and the the um, the attention to detail. It's really all based on trying to create a very um, unique environment, and in doing so, bring out these characters and bring out the story. Um, and you really do sense that there is that kind of purpose when you look at a lot of the good animated films and television shows that have come around over the years. But bad animation, what I think bad animation suffers from is not only the animatronic kind of goofy looking, you know, uh, awkward movements, but it also does something that's really kind of counterproductive to what I think animation largely is trying to sort of do. And that is creating movement for the sake of creating movement and not really generating anything of substance behind that movement and not generating anything that goes well with the environment. All of these factors really do put a damper on it being something of substance. For example, when you look at a lot of Disney's works and how they really did research and they really committed into trying to create something that is uniquely a part of what you would consider the Disney brand, I guess. But at the same time, bringing out some kind of realistic um, movement and sort of understanding of the environment, um, and contrast that to something like, for example, Smurfs, which, again, there's actually two films of the Smurfs. And when you look at those two films, you notice how a lot of the times the movement that is animated is largely designed to just kind of be a distraction. It's not designed to engage you. It's not designed to really interest you. It just creates the illusion of things going on because things are moving. But just because things are moving doesn't mean anything is necessarily happening or really driving the story forward or generating comedic effect or really bringing anything to the table. It's just kind of nee. And and I think that's in a way not really necessarily helping your demographic, which is primarily children, because you're kind of looking down, I think, almost at the audience at that point when you're trying to do these movements but have nothing substantial backing them. And I think at least for me, I'm a huge fan of not talking down to kids. So when I see this kind of very, almost useless animation just created for the sake of entertainment, but not necessarily really being genuine entertainment, it kind of, it really does deter me from ultimately making a recommendation to that animation, because it's just not good animation with any kind of substance. And I'm not saying it has to be intellectually stimulating. I'm not saying that all animation has to have certain morals, certain plot structures or anything like that. But what I am saying is that I think a lot of the times what ends up happening to, I think, a lot of animated films and shows that try to do this, is that they sort of do it because they think that they can kind of get away with it because their demographic is kids, and kids don't have the same capacities adults to understand certain things. And although that might be true, I don't think talking down to them is a way of really helping them be not only educated but entertained too. I mean, it doesn't have to always be about bringing out some kind of moral message for kids. And again, and I think it really just all boils down to this point of not taking the audience seriously. And a lot of bad animation, I think, really is a result of that, of the animators deciding we're not going to try to put kids onto a higher level. We're not going to, it really is talking down to them and not trying to build up their animation, build up their curiosity. It's all just noise, and nothing of interest to back it up. And I think a lot of kids misconceptualize it as entertainment because it is moving and it is generating some kind of thought process or emotions, but it's not doing it in a way that's that I think really ultimately brings out anything that kids can really ultimately find as genuinely entertaining. I just think a lot of the times, usually, I think for the most part, kids tend to get confused as to what's going on. And I think largely that has to do with when they do try to make these really fast and quick movements, and they do try to create something that really has nothing behind it. So yeah, I think that's really the real heart and the real difference between good and bad animation. Good animation tries to provide something entertaining. It tries to provide something of value, a certain maybe amount of substance. And again, this can be from a comedic or dramatic standpoint. It tries to take the audience into a world of either sheer goofiness and maybe almost insanity, or it takes us to a very beautiful kind of picturesque location. It's designed to be very visual, and if you don't have the visual caliber to back it up, and on top of that you are just kind of having animation there for the sake of having something for the kids to look at, it doesn't really bring out, I think, the best in what animation is sort of really designed to do. So that's just really my thoughts on it and how I sort of view the two categories of what really makes good animation and what really is low quality animation. But I think that's really ultimately all I can say about this this particular topic. If there are any questions, comments, concerns, I'd be more than happy to answer them. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you all have a pleasant day, week, month, and year, and I hope that this video can be uploaded and taken care of. It's just that the audio was not cooperating with me for some reason, but hopefully it's back up and running. But until next time, everybody,